Um, yeah. So welcoming Jill Chapman and Hazel. They both have their own programs, as I said, that they do independently. But for today, and for you and for us, that is the unique event. They've prepared something together. It's a very interactive, actually, workshop that you will be experiencing their craft. So from a few words about them. From the scenery of Zambia, Central Africa's earth and thorn trees and the skies, to the hills and gardens of Scotland, and from a very interesting secret royal garden in Old English grounds, through the different sceneries of nature and waterfalls. Both of our guests have grown up actually in nature and with nature in their hearts and minds. And so they it's no wonder that they want to share, and they've developed this for their programs with mindfulness. And so tonight we'll do with them, we'll share with them their program and their approach. And we will see how we can also open up more to nature and reconnect in a unique way. So Hazel inspiration for working with nature comes from being in the Quero indigenous people training somewhere in the Andes. And Joe has worked and studied for long time ecosystems and neurobiology. And so they both unite, as I said, their knowledge and know-how, and we'll be experiencing this directly from them. Introducing now Hazel Farr and Jill Chapman, who will engage us for the next hour and a half. If you have any questions, we'll have about 10-15 minutes in the end to ask questions. And yes, thank you both for coming here tonight. The stage is yours.
Okay, thank you, Stassi. Can you all hear me okay? Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, thank you for that warm welcome, and thank you for coming to join us live in our interactive session this evening. And it's so brilliant. Hazel and I was saying it's brilliant to be coming into a group of fellow colleagues, really. And I'm sure in our session today, there's going to be opportunity for us to hear from you as well, because we'll all have our own connection to this topic. And there's an opportunity this evening in the things that we're going to be sharing with you, hopefully that everyone can kind of touch into this from where you are and your perceptions, your world, your experience, and hopefully take something from this session that then can be combined and interact with what you're doing in your worlds and your programs as well. And I'm sure that there must be something in all of you that is quite heartfelt in terms of coming today to a session that connects with climate and the environment as well. So it's really good to be part of this community here. So we're going to, before we launch into sharing some practice and things, Hazel and I will share just a very short kind of synopsis, if you like, of our story, about what brings us here today. But before we get started, I'm sure everyone's been quite busy today. I'm sure you've all had heads and bodies in different places and on different thoughts and things. So to bring us all here together, we'll do a little practice, but we're going to do a little mind, body and earth practice to get us started together. So I'm going to take my headset off. Okay. Does the sound all right? Still hear me? Yeah. So if you're comfortable to, and if not, you can stay sitting down to do this, but if you're comfortable to, you can join me standing. You don't need much room. I haven't got much room here, but just enough room to stand, and maybe if you can, to have your arms to your side. And we're going to do what's called an expansion breath. Some of you may be familiar with this already. There's nothing complicated about it. We're simply going to allow ourselves to reconnect mind with body and use our earth energy to sort of fire us up and connect together. So if we bring our arms out to the side, and we're going to, as we bend down, and only as far as it comes, we're going to bring the arms down. I'm going to start breathing in as if we're sweeping up the energy from the ground, and we bring our hands up through our palms, through our core, breathing in all the way up to the top, and then a nice big breath out as we bring the arms back round to the sides. So we do a few more of these where we gradually are scooping up all the energy from the earth, bringing it in, up through the hara, the heart, to the head, and to the sky, and then allowing the big, nice sigh of an out breath out. We'll do a couple more, just in your own rhythm. Bringing all that energy in, right up to the sky, and then breathing out. And last one. Breathing in. And then just give yourself a nice little shake out, wherever your body wants to have a shake. And then come and have a sit down again. On the screen. Lovely. Oh, that felt good. I feel like I needed that as well. Okay, I'm just going to put my headphone in, so hopefully that's a bit better quality to hear me now. Okay, so we want to get into that. We haven't got long, have we? We haven't got long in this session, and as Stassi said, it's a massive topic. So, you know, we're gonna, you know, there's obviously a lot more that can be shared than we can share with you today. But let's keep the conversation alive outside of the session as well. So please do carry on the connection and get in touch if anything resonates or want to talk more on topics as well. So in terms of what brought me here today, so my background is I'm a chartered occupational psychologist, chartered coaching psychologist, and mainly work with organisations. But really what brought me to be sitting here sharing some of these activities today with you and to collaborating with Hazel here was I did the MBSR course, which I'm sure you're familiar with, about 11 years ago. And a friend recommended it to me, and I was in a bit of a stressful time in my own life, 2 young kids and some caring roles and all sorts of things, general life aspects. And I found that program absolutely transformational for me. And it was exactly what I needed. And I recognized from doing the MBSR course, I learned more about myself and my patterns than all of the many years of training as a psychologist and all of the different psychometrics and tools I'd done. There was that course really, you know, was more transformational. So obviously I wanted to carry on the practices and to continue getting the benefits from it. And then obviously it became very much part of my life. But, you know, meeting clients like yourselves, coaching, you know, one-to-ones, groups, organizations, soon kind of felt like these are tools that I want to be sharing with others, sharing the benefits of, like you will all, hence being here. So about 3 years afterwards, once I'd kind of really established my own practice, about 3 years after I did the course with the Mindfulness Exchange to become a mindfulness trainer for the workplace. And then that gave me the confidence and the skills and the resources to start taking this out into my work, which I did. So I used to, and I'm saying used to, I haven't run one of these programs for a couple of years now. I used to run 6-7 week session programs, which was mindfulness for the workplace kind of programs based on Mark Williams' book, Finding Peace in the Frantic World. And absolutely loved doing that. There were open programs that people came to from all different workplaces. Then I incorporated, I kind of also, on top of that, designed a program for our community company that works with long-term unemployed people, and combined ACT resources, acceptance and commitment training resources, in that as well. And then ran that program for a number of years with those groups. Then I decided, like many people do, that I needed to get back to the roots of mindfulness. You know, I've been doing like a workplace program, but I really wanted to get back to the roots of it. So luckily enough, we have a Buddhist academy near where we live, and I was able to join the Buddhist month there, first of all on the introductory course, but then on the advanced course, and go right back to the basics. And I also felt like I was kind of coming back to relearn mindfulness in a way. So it's been, like all of us, it's an ongoing journey, still learning lots. But really what's happened is in more recent years, in the last couple of years, I've spent most of my time just integrating the mindfulness practices, teachings, sessions, activities in all of my work, rather than as kind of programs in itself. So in my coaching, in team sessions, you know, whatever I'm doing, I consider what aspects are helpful to integrate. So it's more of an integrated approach. Over lockdown, I ran some online nature connection programs, and also when we could, when we get outside with small groups, did some outdoor nature connection programs as well. So I was trying to keep that nice and short, and I've probably spent far too long, Hazel, so apologies. But that's kind of a bit of my story as to why I'm here. We'll do a very short little practice, and then I'll pass over to Hazel. So this little practice we want to share, that I'm going to share with you now, is one that I'm sure in one sense or another you're already all very familiar with, because it's an adaptation of the raising exercise. So it's a sense kind of awareness exercise. I won't say anything too much more about it. I'll let us have the experience. So I'd like you just to spend 20 seconds, 30 seconds max, finding yourself something where you are that has nature with it. A plant, a piece of fruit, a pet, something that has a natural connection. So I've got a little plant on my windowsill here that I'm gonna just bring in front of me. So just carefully bring something that you're not going to damage, gently bring it back to your screen, something that you can connect with for this exercise. Don't overthink it. And then I'm just going to guide us in a very brief sensory awareness practice. So what I would like you to do first of all is we're just going to become aware of what we're going to do. So we're just going to first of all notice sitting here together. Let's have our feet on the ground, get a nice uplift in the body. Just notice that slowing down to be really present and take part in this practice. Maybe tuning into your breath just a little bit first of all. Your mind's probably wondering what's going to be happening. Let's just center ourselves by coming back to the breath first of all. So noticing the in-breath and the out-breath. Just being with a couple more breaths, just to ground yourself here. Just making a bit of space to be present. And then when you're ready, opening your eyes if they're closed, because we will be using our sense of sight. And I'd like you to gently, if it's something you can, just bring your piece of nature up in front of you. If you can pick it up, great. If not, lean in. Don't worry about getting anything wrong. There's no wrong here. And we're going to just take a few minutes to have a really good look at what we have. So using your sense of sight to really become aware of everything you're seeing with what you have there. What are the colours? Perhaps noticing shapes, perhaps light that's reflecting, maybe shadows. Is it the same as what you're seeing everywhere on here, or is there different parts that look different? What's something new that you can see on it now, or as part of it, that you didn't see the first time you had a look? Maybe looking at the very beginnings, where it comes from, where it starts and where it ends. Are the edges different to the center? And now take a moment, if you aren't already, to tune into the sense of touch. What does it feel like? Is there a texture? If you give it a word, a description, is it fragile or hard? Is the texture the same on all parts of it, or is it different on different parts? Smooth or soft? Is there anything about the texture or the touch that surprises you or is interesting? And then let's just see if it does have any sound to it. Is there a way of moving it that creates a sound? Can you notice any sound that comes from whatever your nature is that you're connecting with? Or maybe you can't. And then just notice, has it got a smell? Just tune in, have a good old sniff. Is there a smell to this? And what do we notice? Has the mind gone anywhere when we're smelling our piece of nature? And if it has, just noticing where it's gone. And I'm not going to ask you to eat it, don't worry. Unless it's edible and you want to, or drink it unless you really want to and it's there. Okay, so just placing your nature back down in front of you. And let's just take a second here just to become aware of any lasting things to notice from that experience. Just having a minute of silence or a moment of silence here, just to become aware of any thoughts or emotions or reactions that might be present as we sit here with a moment to really connect in with this piece of nature. Okay. And then just reconnecting with each other here back on our screens. So that's just a very, very short little practice. That's an adaptation of something I'm sure you all know. And hold those experiences or comments or thoughts for a moment, because we'll capture all of that up in a moment. So I'm now going to pass over to Hazel, who is going to share some new and different things with you. And then there'll be an opportunity for us to go into some breakout rooms together. So over to you, Hazel.
Thanks, Jill. I'm just going to start really by looking at my journey, because it has been quite a diverse journey to get to this point. But I would describe it as a weaving. And it's been a weaving of following my heart in different strands. And the three main strands that I've had in my life have been health and well-being, nature, and also children's work. So if I look at after uni, I started with organising park events. So encouraging people into parks, working with children's charities, with local authorities to get people outside. And from there, I went into community development work. So working a lot in inner city areas where there wasn't that exposure to outdoors. So really looking at how we could introduce people to sports, to art, to outdoors, to play, and really building up their sense of well-being. After a back accident, I had to reprioritize my own health and well-being. And I first came across mindfulness while in rehabilitation, and we were using meditation and yoga for pain management. So I wasn't too enthralled with it at that time, but it did plant a seed in terms of the kind of ways in which we can access different states. And in fact, I then went into the holistic health field, became a therapist in different modalities. I then went into lecturing in universities, especially in areas like stress management, working with breath work, and the different ways of healing. I then did a total moved to South Africa. I was there for 20 years and set up a coaching organization. So I worked with corporate coaching, looking at soft skills work, stress management, time management, emotional intelligence, and again came back to mindfulness through neuro leadership. So by training in there, understanding how the brain worked, how it could help with our performance, how it could help with managing our time. And I also worked then as a life coach with clients, but also with children and schools, becoming a yoga instructor, and also taking people and groups out of their comfort zone into nature to learn these kind of skills. So interacting with the wild, interacting with animals. I worked with equine assisted therapy, or it could be elephants or walking, and just really looking at all the ways where we can access our own personal development. And as Stacey mentioned, I also trained as a shaman with the Incan tradition, which had a beautiful form of mindfulness that's based on gratitude. So I had a very kind of diverse experience of mindfulness. But 7 years ago, I moved to Portugal, no corporates, no clients, no job, had to really start again, and decided to go back into traditional mindfulness in this way, and went to Bangor University to do my master's in mindfulness. I thought I would go into education with working with children primarily, but then in my dissertation, we hit lockdown. And suddenly the dissertation wasn't going to happen, and I had to come up with something with four months to go. And this really distilled what was important to me, what I loved about mindfulness, where I loved doing mindfulness. And what came out of that was designing a program on an 8-week nature-based mindfulness program, where aligning the 8 weeks MBCT course with the nature connection kind of practices. And this then became my passion. This became my focus. And later on, I'll show how I then took that into children's work and into climate action work as well. So I still run courses. I still run online nature-based mindfulness courses. I teach at primary school with a 30-week curriculum on nature-based mindfulness. I work as one of the global coordinators with the Climate Coaching Alliance, organising events and festivals. I work with summits in terms of mindfulness, nature and climate education, and also have a small retreat in Algarve where I do things like deep time walks, where we combine mindfulness with the history of the earth while walking. So I suppose my thing that I want to really share is that there are so many avenues that we can take, but for me, it's been following this heart path. Whatever came up, it's like, does this align with what I love? And then moving with that kind of element or that practice. So one of the practices I'm going to show is really coming from the program, and I'll just kind of share what kind of elements might come into nature-based practices. So if we look, I work, as I said, with this 8-week program, and you'll recognize some of the parts of this because it is MBCT based. If we look at the third one down, this is where it starts to merge with nature, really. And Jill's done a beautiful kind of sensory awakening that we can use with nature. And I'm going to look at this third aspect of going into nature connectedness. And we'll see the importance of this later on as well. There is a difference between nature contact, nature connection, and a state of being in nature connectedness. And really, we can use the grounding and breathing that we do within our 8-week mindfulness courses, but put it into a nature-based context. So the practice I'm going to share is called green breath. It's also called aloha breath as well. So for this practice, and I think Jill also mentioned that when we work with nature-based mindfulness, we don't need as much time, because nature gives us a very unique sensory experience where we can awaken so many senses without getting overwhelmed. So we don't need to sit for 45 minutes, for instance, in nature. We can access it within a short amount of time. So for this, you can either have something, so I've got my plant I can use, or you can look out the window, or you can close your eyes and imagine perhaps something in nature that you see every day or regularly, a tree that you love, a plant that you love. So if we can just close our eyes or keep them open if you're focusing on a specific object. And just bringing an awareness into the body, into the breath, listening to the breath, feeling a sense of grounding. And this breath is called aloha breath because aloha is the Hawaiian greeting. It means hello, and it also means an expression of love. Alo means to share. Ha means the breath or spirit. We are sharing the breath. Aloha we use with people, connecting at the forehead as an expression of sharing reverence. In nature, we can become part of nature through green breath, where we share our breath with nature. Green breath brings in the heart and the spirit. We breathe from the heart rather than the vagus nerve or the lungs. So it's an expression of reciprocity with nature, connection, and oneness. So imagining this nature in front, whether a plant, a view, a tree, a plant. As you inhale, mindfully breathe in the exhale of nature. Let its life force move into you with a sense of gratitude, into your being. And on the exhale, do so in love, knowing that nature is breathing in your exhale. And as we feel this exchange, it becomes a beautiful balance of receiving what we need and giving what nature gives. It's an exchange of life force, an exchange of spirit, an exchange of breath. And feeling this sense of gratitude, feel the contribution of your heart and your spirit. And feel the way that nature is so willing and open to share this giving and receiving. Perhaps be aware of what opens up in you when you breathe with nature, when we connect to something greater than us, and when we experience this unconditional giving. And next time in nature, perhaps setting an intention to breathe with nature, bringing that awareness to the breath. Perhaps if we are low, we can use it to energize ourselves. Perhaps if we feel full of energy, we can give in gratitude, knowing that nature is working with us. So working back into the transition, back into this room, and knowing that this is a practice that we can do anywhere, anytime, to bring us into a state of connectedness and peace. And opening our eyes, bringing back into the room. So I've shared a couple of techniques that bring together mindfulness and nature. And I'm wondering really that we, with being a smaller group, we can perhaps just bring this into the group, perhaps putting something into the chat, or perhaps just raising your hand and bringing in something that you would like to share. Perhaps something that came up for you, perhaps a practice that you are involved in, or something that you would like to bring to this group. So anything people would like to share verbally while people are going into the chat.
What was interesting for you? What did you notice in those practices? Or what was familiar?
So yes, Helen.
Hi. Yeah, my name is Emma, actually, and I'm so glad and happy to be in this group now and to be sharing with colleagues about the topic, which is in my heart for years. I'm originally German and living in Italy for 2 years now, and mindfulness teacher for 19 years. And during the course of my, being a mindfulness teacher, I started to experiment with nature and how these two, how do you say, help each other. And so I also developed a program. It's 7 sessions, and I did retreats and courses and days with mindfulness in nature for quite a while. And it's so great for me now to share, as to hear you and yeah. So I wrote articles and in the German MBSR association, I think you say. I did also some presentations and everything. So my heart is really there too. And I find more and more as the climate crisis becomes more and more obvious how much mindfulness can contribute to connecting us all with nature in a way that we might have lost. That's why we are where we are right now. Yeah, I liked what you said in the beginning. It's a huge topic. And it would be so much to say. And I like the exercise with breathing a lot, because I find the oneness, or like Thich Nhat Hanh says, the interbeing. It's so important for us to relearn, to really feel it, not just know it, but really feel it. So
Yeah.
So
Thank
much
you.
for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, I think you picked on some key points there, that this is really reconnection, because we've had that connection, that biophiliac connection that is part of us anyway. And sometimes we just need to reconnect. And there is a lot of research to show that the more mindful we are, the easier we connect to nature. And the more we connect to nature, the more mindful we become. So it's such a wonderful symbiotic relationship that is there. So thank you for that. Teresa's put there as well, such tenderness in the heart. And I think that's a lovely thing, that it is a felt experience when we bring that mindful awareness into nature. Any other things that people would like to mention? Yes.
Yes.
So I'm Didier from Belgium, Flemish speaking. So I was first a mindfulness teacher. I'm still a mindfulness teacher, but then a certain moment when I drove with my bicycle to work, I had to pass a forest, and more I stopped, sat down in the woods and start to meditate. So it was overwhelming. It was very nice. You felt nature. Then it wasn't a coincidence, I think. In the newspaper, there was a small magazine where they were talking about Shirin-yoku, or the forest bathing. So I was very interesting. So I followed a year education to become a forest bathing guide. So I like both, and I know when I do the forest bathing, the workshops forest bathing, I feel it when I guide my participants. You feel they have something, and you know, okay, there's attention, there's mindfulness, but it's not explicit that I told them or I tell them like this. But now with these exercises, I felt the connection, because I felt, how can I connect them both? Because I know both are how you say it, enforce them each other. So and the kind of first bait, what I like in first bait is also a little bit the spiritual way, the connection, the universe, ancient, yeah, the elements of nature, and you don't see them in mindfulness, because there is more, I see what it is in the moment. So I was searching for this, and maybe it's no coincidence that you are here, that I am here, and maybe I found a way to connect them both. So I like both the exercise. I see the mindfulness exercise, but I felt also the forest bathing exercise. Even if I took a shell, it was even nature that I felt. So so I'm very glad to be here, and that there's a nature-based mindfulness program. So
Thank you.
Just to make a point, and I think what you've said there, this community of knowing that there are other people out there doing the same thing, sharing in this, is such a key element of this kind of work, because it is so diverse, it is so wide, and finding these connections, it really follows the path of nature, of living in community in this way and supporting each other. Yeah, Lydia.
There's something coming up now also. It's a kind of the history of all that, because with the shell also, when Jill asked, yeah, what's the connection, what you feel, and the first thing that happened, this shell has a history. It once was in the sea, or I don't know where. It once was very little. It once was, and it goes now, and now it's in my house as decoration. So there's history. And when you say with aloha, the traditions of in Hawaii, but there are other traditions. When we go in forest bathing, the tradition where I followed it was more to the Celtic people, with the 8 feast year feast. So I like them both also to see that living on the rhythm of the seasons. So it's almost midsummer, so it's the mid of summer. It's not the beginning of the summer. So normally in May, when you see in nature, you see now nature is exploding, so it's almost going over the top. And when we are in August, there's a harvest. So with our timing of seasons, we are 40 days too late. So we have to see, we have to watch, we have to pay attention to nature. And that's also what I saw in your connection, the rhythm or something I wrote in the program. So, so it's nice. Thank you.
I really love what you're saying there, Didier. I'm just kind of taking it all in, and your forest bathing as well. So it sounds beautiful. Yeah, and it reminded me as well what you were saying about, I think, I'm sure you experience this with the people you take into the forest as well, isn't it? And as Hazel was saying, I think with these nature connection mindfulness, mindfulness activities, but with the nature connectedness within them, actually from a very small time in the actual exercise, there's so much that people connect with, that actually the time in the debrief, the time in the storytelling, the time in, people will connect in from where they're at, and the debrief is very, very rich. And you can almost, and Stacey will know this from a leadership program we used to run at the Centre for Alternative Technology in Wales. We do a short mindfulness nature activity, and then you could be there 2-3 hours with a group of people with storytelling, their own sensory, emotional, all the connections that come from it. And so, yeah, what you were saying there, Didier, just reminded me of that. And, the story that you bought from that shell is a great example of, how these small activities can go quite deep and actually have a real, personal connection, and open up a group and open up people, and really it can go, you get quite a lot quite quickly, as you're saying, Hazel, as well, with these nature sessions, as I'm sure you're all aware. Yeah, I think in the interest of time, we probably need to move on to our next part. Should we bring the slides up, Hazel? Oh, yeah. Thank you. And I think we've already touched in this already, but we're all noticing, we all know already, we're all here for heartfelt reasons as to why we're here, why this topic is important for ourselves. I think the other thing that maybe we haven't explicitly said, but is here as well, is the fact that we're all nature, and recognizing our own, like the earth and the environment's limits that perhaps aren't being honored right now. That we are nature, we need to care for ourselves, our limitations as well, and that the two, like the breath, the two go hand in hand, don't they? And so this is where, as part of that picture and as part of the programs that we bring and the activities we do, there's always that essence of that reconnecting with ourselves, with our own caring for ourselves first, and then that allows up our heart connection, that then allows us to really genuinely open up those channels to care outside as well, including nature within that. So I'm rambling, Hazel. I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Jill. And I think really working for caring ourselves, there is a point where caring for nature is also then part of that. And this is where we move into this area, the ecological self, where there's an expansion of our self, where we are connected to nature. One of the things I noticed when I was doing this dissertation, that originally it was nature-based mindfulness. And suddenly I realized that actually this is also taking us into the realms of climate action. And when we first started, there wasn't much research going through. But if we look at the research that is now available, that has really snowballed in terms of the links from mindfulness to actually caring for the planet and climate action. If we look at the Mindfulness Initiative, they've recently done a very seminal report, very comprehensive, with a lot of research to show that the name is Reconnection, Meeting the Climate Crisis Inside Out. It is worth a read. It's a very huge document now, where they've realized that the human inequalities and capacities are actually the key to addressing climate change. So really, mindfulness then becomes a key, powerful area that's an enabler of reconnection. So there is a lot of correlation now between mindfulness, our consumption of the planet, but also where we go to start moving this forward. I'll put a link up in the chat for that report. Some of the other research shows that mindfulness is correlated to pro-environmental behaviour, and that is really where we minimise the impact on the environment. So reducing our carbon footprint, recycling, reducing eating less meat, how we transport ourselves around. And that they have found that the key to linking mindfulness and pro-environmental behaviour is that connectedness to nature. Because as Jill mentioned, once we care for ourselves, we start caring for the planet as well. There's also an indirect path from mindfulness to ecological behaviour, and the mediation or the pathway is through individual health behaviour. So as we become more mindful, we also then perhaps eat differently. We mindfully walk in nature, we take care of our pets, we feel a sense of compassion. So there is also that way through. And another branch of research, the University of Derby in the UK does a lot of research on the benefits and the ways of connecting to nature. And they have found that simple nature activities related to nature connection is actually the largest single contributor to influencing pro-conservation behaviour. And that's where there's the restoration of biodiversity, for instance, how we volunteer, building, planting trees, planting vegetables. All of these purposeful activities will influence how we take care of the planet. And that comes down to the simple one, the one they use a lot, the starting point is noticing 3 good things every day in nature. You walk out your front door, you can notice 3 things, and that sense of gratitude starts connecting you to nature. I use it a lot with children as well. And also that last point there, that people won't care for the earth if they don't have a relationship with it and no embodied experience of its reality. And this brings in some of the elements of mindfulness. It's about embodiment. And in nature, it's about seeing this as our ecological self, where we have this expansionness of the self, where nature is part of our family. And we take care of our family. So when we see nature as part of ourselves, part as our family, then we automatically start taking care of the planet. So Jill and I are going to just show a few ways in which we've worked with this part of the journey. I'll talk a bit about children's work and also climate coaching work, and Jill will look at some of the corporate work that can be done. So if we look at...
Just before you start on this slide, Hazel, just to say briefly, just so I don't interrupt you, I'm going to pop into the chat, in case it's of interest to anyone, an audio file that you can connect to and download, which is a compassion guide that I did for Earth Day. So it's a compassion guidance meditation with a particular connection to the earth, perhaps helpful with eco-anxiety, but also that nature connection. So I'm just letting you know it's there, that's all. Sorry, Hazel.
Yeah, thank you. And just to point out, any questions you've got or things you want to put, please put them in the chat, because we've got time at the end to look at some of the things that are coming up, because sometimes we can't remember later on, we've moved on to something else. So anything where you want to revisit one of the ideas, please put that in the chat. I'm just going to give a brief overview of what I do with children. I teach primary school children. And this year it's been preschool, and I've also focused on that grade 1 to 3, because I find if you build the mindfulness and the nature connection at that age, it really does follow through their education. So I work basically with the principles of mindfulness first of all, just to give them an understanding of what mindfulness is, and the kind of learning tools and coping mechanisms. So you can see that the first bit really is the mindfulness aspect. But then we work in nature with how to apply this, some of the breathing techniques. We can use animals, we can use insects, we can see the relationship that is there in nature with the bees and the rainbows, for instance. I also then work with neuroscience, and I do link into the PAUSE-B program, if any of you know of that one. And really with the neuroscience, we look at ocean life, because there's so much we can learn about the different creatures in the ocean, the dolphin, the seahorse. I will link it to different parts of the brain, and also working with emotions, stress, anxiety. And more I'm seeing with children this eco-anxiety coming up. How do we help children deal with the climate crisis? And this is starting to come up in mindfulness courses. People are saying, well, we had, say, lockdown, we had the cost of living, but actually, what do we do with the climate crisis? And then we go into, after building an awareness of nature and the importance of nature connection, it's how do we then care for the planet? How do we deal with the melting environments? And I use the Arctic in this as well, different animals. What can we do? What can children do to where they are to help with climate change? So this is one area where we can take all these practices and just adapt them into children's work. And the other area that I work with the Climate Coaching Alliance, and their purpose is transforming coaching practice, transforming impact, and transforming the coaching profession. There are a lot of mindfulness teachers that are members of the CCA, and membership is free. All the events are free. I'm one of the coordinators of CCA, and this organization, or this movement, should I say, is about participating in this shift of human awareness. It's for any kind of coaches, supervisors, facilitators, leaders, and really helping enable influence and supporting the evolution of the coaching profession. It is following the living systems principle. There is no hierarchy. We work in collaboration. There are community pods, either geographical or special interests. So there's a young people in education pod, there's an eco-anxiety pod, there's a trauma-informed pod. There's all these different ways in which we can really start to investigate our coaching practice. And this applies in our mindfulness practice. What do we do now with what is coming up? It is run by volunteers. This year we did a month-long festival. There are events every month. There are community meetings. And really it's about creating spaces for dialogue, but also building resources for ourselves as well. This is one organization, but I think there are so many ways in which we can start to really take mindfulness into this journey of climate awareness. And how do we start the coaching conversations? It's one of the biggest questions people say. What do I ask? How do I bring this in the agenda? Is it appropriate to bring it into, for instance, an 8-week course? And so these are the questions that a lot of coaches are grappling with. So these are two areas that is there. And again, just bring any questions into the chat. But I'm going to pass over to Jill in terms of another way in which we can bring this in.
Thank you, Hazel. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, the last couple of years, I've started to really move into integrating mindfulness into all aspects of our work. And the reason that I kind of took that route was really because it was becoming more and more important to me to have an impact, a positive impact in terms of sustainability and regeneration, and to respond to what we're all experiencing in our environment and world. So coming from a background of business psychology, I really wanted to be able to bring this work and bring mindfulness more into organizations, and to connect people in all aspects of teams, leadership, all areas, as much as possible, to the experiences like we've done today, and to build that relationship with nature and with the environment, or with life as a whole. So rather than thinking about, so when I started to do 6-week, 7-week programs, it was quite limited, the amount of people that I could impact in that way. And although it was powerful and people were coming away with great outcomes and taking their practice forward, myself and my colleagues decided that actually by working in organizations, we can have a bigger ripple effect and a bigger impact in terms of the actions and the takeaways that people can take from our work, and how they can then integrate it in their teams and in their departments, and widen the impact. So it's been a bit of a process of like anything, it's been a bit of experimenting and just kind of working with what's having traction, and where the energy is and where the interest and attention is. So there's several things that we've been doing in organizations to increase people's relationship really with themselves, with each other, with society, and with the environment. So there's kind of 4 key aspects of positive impact that we look at in all our work. So for example, we have leadership development programs. There's a photo there of one that we've run in an organization actually that existed just before Create Flow, called Create 7, which was a cooperative, and we ran a program that we used to run for the Centre for Alternative Technology, which is where that photo is, where leaders from all different organizations would come together. And most of that program, Stassi's been on that program, so she knows it, is outdoors. So there's although we're looking at leadership topics, mainly post-conventional leadership topics about leadership development, there's a very core earth story that people connect into, and there's a number of practices that really are quite deep and give people a real shift, if you like, in their consciousness and relationship with the natural environment. So that was a really brilliant program, and we've built on that. But now what we want to do, and we are doing, is we're offering in our normal kind of consultancy offer, if you like. We've got coaching, we've got team building, we run leadership programs, management programs, the usual kind of consultancy opportunities. But everything that we do, we always are very considered, and we're very committed to, in terms of thinking about the spaces and the places we're in, and we bring people's attention to that. We're very much in terms of how we're meeting, some of the simple things, you know, and how we're meeting, and people, you know, having enough space, enough time. People are hydrated, you know, connecting people into their own bodies quite quickly in sessions. So even if we're doing a training session on you know, on resilience or emotional intelligence, we would never do anything that is just going to be sitting looking at PowerPoints. There'll always be a mind-body connection, a mindfulness kind of aspect to it. There'll always be opportunities for people to just connect in with their own emotions, how they're responding. So all of the good things that we do in mindfulness are kind of integrated, but in a less kind of we're here doing mindfulness way, but actually giving people those experiences and really always making sure that there's an aspect of the natural world present in everything we do. And then in more recent times, I'm talking very recently, this is kind of a project in progress I'm sharing with you here on the left-hand side. So it's very early tester stages. So I'll be really welcome any of your feedback or thoughts on this as well. Is we're starting to bring in a model where people and teams in organizations do a little bit of a pulse check on where they are as a team around these core flow principles to bring their teams alive. So you'll probably notice, those of you who have ever looked at permaculture, that these 12 principles in our model here come from the 12 principles of permaculture. So obviously, when we're looking at how to ensure systems thrive and how we're going to enable organizations to achieve growth, but also to really, have a sustainable growth approach that benefits everyone and think about themselves as an ecosystem, the most firm, solid ground, and we've got to go back to, is of course our own planet Earth and the learnings that permaculture has taken from the best way that an ecosystem thrives. So with each of these principles, we have a number of activities, many of them really including mindfulness activities, nature connection, embodiment activities. It won't take much for you as experienced mindfulness teachers to be able to kind of almost just look at these topics and guess what's in them. But obviously there are things like noticing, there's lots of opportunity there where we're encouraging the teams to really notice each other, to really use those attention skills, to observe, to use their senses to pick up what's going on. We do harnessing energy around, actually there's quite a lot of gratitude work that goes into this, and compassion work, very much about actually recognizing our heart energy, where we are really thinking about how we can actually sort of store up positivity and store up the aspects that we tap into with gratitude and compassion that sustain us and build our resilience. So harvesting results, celebrating, what does that look like, and thinking about how nature does that and how we can learn from. So there's quite a lot of biomimicry in here and drawing people's attention to what this looks like in nature's design as well. So I haven't got time this evening to go through every single principle with you, but I'm sure it's quite clear for you to start to see how these principles of permaculture can be adapted. Really what this is about is accessibility. Actually, how can we bring mindfulness? How can we bring embodiment? How can we bring what we know about human psychology? How can we bring all these things together that's going to bring real world ecosystems closer together with the systems that operate in our world, like organization and business? And how can we get people to move from thinking about ESG as some paperwork and things to kind of drive stakeholder, shareholder dividends, to actually going beneath the surface and what these mean as core principles. So it's a big topic again in itself. And for example, like we obviously want to model what we want to grow and change in the world. And so as an organization, there's a real kind of balancing out of all the business that we get. There's a percentage that goes to practical action, charity that, that does great work around the globe to mitigate the impact of climate change. So it's about kind of showing up, modeling the change we want to see in business, integrating mindfulness, integrating nature, integrating what we know makes a difference in terms of these relationships. And then all the things that Hazel's talking about there, taking every opportunity, even in a very small way, to give people that chance to have those experiences, because then that's where the shift comes, as you will witness and know. So hopefully that gives you a little kind of view in to the work that myself and my colleagues in Create Flow are doing. But I'd be really interested and welcome thoughts in this space or beyond this session about this work, about this model, and about what you're doing as well. So back to you, Hazel.
So perhaps before we go into some questions or some comments, really what it comes down to is what's mine to do, because all of us can do something. And if we look at some of the phrases, things like deep ecology, what is deep ecology? And this has three main aspects. The first one is deep experience. And this is where we move from the thinking into feelings, intuitions, allowing, using our senses. So a lot of the things that we experience in mindfulness, we can bring then into this environmental space of this deep experience. In a tree, this would be like the roots and the trunk. The second aspect then is deep questions. If we look at the branches of a tree, some of these deep questions might be, what is mine to do? What path should I follow? What am I doing in life? Where am I taking this? How can I help? There is a phrase of think like a mountain. What would a mountain do? What could a mountain do? And the third aspect then is deep commitment. What are the actions that I can do? What path do I follow? What are my connections that I can do? What is my communication with nature? Dan Siegel talks not about interconnection, he talks about intra-connection. And it is about building this picture as a community of mindfulness teachers as well, of where can we go from here. So we're just going to spend a few minutes, and perhaps Stasi can lead us in this, but just taking a moment to think, what could I do? What is mine to do? And sometimes these may be eco gestures, as they call, buying a smaller kettle, not buying new clothes, spending a moment in nature with what we do. The list is endless. We have so many ways in which we can enter this space of nature-based mindfulness. So perhaps we can share as well what comes up for you. So I'll just pass you over to Stasi for this last part.
Thank you very much, Hazel and Jill. There's so much that you said and you colleagues do when you're sharing your own ideas and your own experience. Apparently, we are all here very deeply connected already to nature. And it's true, I think, Hazel, you said it in the beginning, you can't be practicing mindfulness without becoming aware, mindful, and then connecting deeply to nature, and vice versa. Somebody who loves nature, they become mindful, and very naturally that everything else comes very naturally. So please, colleagues, if you have anything to say, to mention, to ask, to challenge even, we have 15 minutes. So yeah, go on. It's really hard to take from this huge topic and so many thoughts right now coming into our minds, I guess, I'm sure.
Emma, did you have a question or something to share?
Yes.
Yeah, that question, what is mine to do? That's a question that is with me all the time, actually. And for me, it comes down to to the conviction that being mindful in nature is like a gift to nature, like really, like we take from nature a lot. And sure, as you said, there are those gestures that we change our behavior and on all that, and I find that very important too. But then there's what are we giving nature? What are we giving back, basically? And for me, it's like a deep felt knowing this is awareness. That's what nature needs, and that's what nature helps. Because if we start seeing nature in a different way, not in the perspective, what can I have, but what is it? And what am I in the mirror of nature and all that? So it would be, so I think it's a little bit what I find that's mine to do, like for myself and also guiding people in that. And there's a question to Yamba, actually. If there would be an interest to somehow, I don't know, I have just, I want to connect, I want to network in this. I was surprised there's so little people tonight, you know.
Yeah.
It's such an important topic. So how could Eamba help with connecting people, mindfulness teachers who are already trying things with nature, and to connect them and maybe just continue the conversation, or, you know.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. It's definitely going to continue. This conversation is just a minuscule moment of what could be shared and done. So definitely we'll talk about more of these meetings. Just also to mention that EAMBA is just the umbrella of different associations. Maybe you could initiate something in your own. Was it in Germany that you said? Yeah, initiating something in Germany, in your association, but definitely the Association of Associations will put this topic again, and hopefully a lot of people have actually registered to participate. They are interested. Probably couldn't come tonight, and yeah, we'll be organizing more of that. Thank you. Other sharings, questions, something that, you know, the topic was really from our personal mindfulness to sustainability and working probably in activating other people and working with governments too. So it's a huge transition from one to the other, from this connecting to the stone that I have here, and then doing something about it. I don't know, discussing with a MP. So it's so many things that could be done. And from your role of mindfulness teachers as well, what's yours? Yes, Didier?
So I don't find myself a great, I would say, activist, or to put something big as this to put in the world. But I believe in the small things. And for me, it's a kind of respect. In Belgium, there was a priest, and he created an organization without a name. That was the name. An organization, because it was for everybody. He was a priest, but it was for everybody too. And his first, he makes some quotes, and his first quote is, maybe a little bit like Gandhi said, to change the world, you have to start with yourself. So, and I think the thing that I can do is go in the wood, have respect for the wood. And I wrote down already in the chat, it's also the less pleasant, how you say, of nature. Like I'm living here in my street, or I've got a stone mortar. I don't know if you know the stone mortar. It's a small beast, got on in the cars, under the motor, and on the roof. So we have a trap in the garden for now. He's a little bit gone, but my neighbor said if I catch him, I will draw him, and everybody say the beast is, we have to draw him, and I say no, and that's earlier, a few years ago, maybe I would do that also, and now I say no. I will get him in my cage. I will put it in my car. I will drive 50 kilometers or 75 kilometers away, and I will let him there go out in nature, and I will go back. Hopefully he don't come back, and that's my kind of way how to treat with nature. It's like a spider in your room. When I see one, okay, I'm gonna try to catch him and put it outside. I don't like them in my room or somewhere else. Yeah. So that is for me the small things I can do. And that's also what mindfulness brought me, and what mindfulness or Shirin-yoku of going in the woods. Have respect. It's one of the first things I say when I start with a group. You can take something, you can bring that, but do it respect. Don't take something you throw at home away. No, if you like to do it, is generous. They give everything, but you have to be respectful. Maybe I can tell. We go also in communication with woods, and one of the first things is see the tree as a creature, like with a soul, with something as a whole. So I think that's what I like to give in. I like to start with myself, and that's already difficult enough.
Yeah. Thank you, Lydia, for this sharing. It's almost like I hear a Buddhist monk talking in a talk about loving everybody like yourself, and it comes here as well. This topic to about othering, or to the question, what is mine? I would say that actually, in my beliefs, anything is mine. Even my body is not mine. In this way, because my body is part of nature, right? It's exactly the same water, fire, and air, like everything else in this, like this stone. What other guys want to say or share with us?
Yes, hello. I just want to thank you. I don't have a question or something. I am new to mindfulness. I have always been a nature lover. So I'm so happy that I'm part of this group today, and learn from you, and learn from your experiences. And as I see it, it's like a bridge to me, to this topic, to how my new interest in mindfulness meets my old love for, and my always love for nature. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
So we have literally 6 minutes before we close for tonight, but just closing the just the start of it, as we agreed. That is
This is just
Jill, or yeah,
no, this was just an opportunity for us to share with you, because obviously we haven't got much time together, a little bit more about what we do in our worlds, but I think we've touched on some of this already. But it's just a way for us to keep connected, because what's really important here is, I think we've all mentioned, is that this is just the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much wisdom, experience, you know, experience in nature and mindfulness, but just experience in life that's present in this space. So hopefully, you know, the energy here, we can continue the connection. That's our contact details. So reach out to us, get in contact, find us on LinkedIn as well. And hopefully we can keep these conversations going. And importantly, keep encouraging each other with action. You know, that proactive aspect that we're talking about. And I think, Didier, what you spoke about that really resonated with me, and I think it's quite a powerful message actually, that the importance of modeling this. There's a kind of self piece, you know, what am I going to do inside? But for me, I think that also, like we know, inside outside, it's naturally you're modeling that, and people notice you taking the animal to the woods, and you know, they see you moving the spider outdoors, and these things are never the small things, are they? As you say, it has a ripple effect. So I think there's something really, and tonight us all connecting here will have a ripple effect, won't it? And even if we all go away and just do one thing, or tweak what we're doing, or speak about this session with other people, or share some resources with others, that changes things, doesn't it? So yeah, keep connected. Let's keep the conversation going.
Hazel, do you want to say some last words and then we'll close?
Yeah, just to say thank you. And I think the key word you used there, Jill, really was connection. We were talking about nature connection, but in fact, this is heart connection. And I think it's just lovely for us to share that connection and look at what is possible. It is a bit like a walk through the woods. There are so many paths that we can take, both from mindfulness, but also from nature connection. And it's lovely to see how all our paths connect, and then we go off and we come back. So it'd be really lovely to keep in touch and see what is possible. I mentioned about the CCA. Anybody can start a mindfulness pod, a nature pod, and connect with like-minded people just to share a space and look at what is possible. And these pods can be in any format. It can be part of IMBA in terms of that, of how do we move this forward. So we are so grateful for this space as well, because it just opens up this conversation. So thank you so much for all coming.
Yeah, thank you both, Hazel and Jill and Didier and Emma and Daniela and Dia and Laura. I have the chance to say all of our names now in this small but very really great group. We'll continue the conversation, and yeah, please take care of yourself now and the nature. And just to remind you that with the words of Thich Nhat Hanh, with every step is on the earth is love. So step from this moment when you stand up and go out in the room, from out maybe in the garden, just step with love on it, and breathe in the air, because we're sharing it too. Have a good evening and a great weekend, and see you in our next meeting too. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.